Alrighty. It's Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. You know what that means? It means it's time for coffee. So I can wake up and hang with my friends on the internet. What's happening, folks? What's going on? What's going on? Did you guys see the video I did for this thing this week? Inspire. Nice sounding pedal. Really good sounding tri-chorus in a pedal. We've got Tylenol. He's online first. You win. You win it. No, I can't give this away. I'm sorry. I like it too much. Norway in the house. France in the house. What's up? Coffee in hand. Excellent. Rocket Chippy's here. What's up, dude? And Toronto, Canada. Excellent. And what do we got here? Rotterdam, Holland. Love Holland. Miss Holland. Vancouver. Please come to Vancouver, says Tylenol. Dude, I would love to. Miss Vancouver. Many friends there. One of these days I'm going to get up there soon. It's been way too long. One of my favorite places. Greetings from Greenland. No way. Greenland. Okay, how many people out there know what country owns Greenland? I'll give you a second to answer in the chat. It's interesting. I know for the fellow in Greenland, I'm sorry. There's just so many people that don't know. I didn't know until about maybe 5 years ago. And I was like, wait a minute, Greenland? Who owns Greenland? It's fascinating to me. This vast expanse, swath of land up there in the North Atlantic. All right, we'll let that one ride for a minute. Have I ever played a Hempstead amp? I have not. When will I announce the winner of the TC giveaway? You know, that's a good question. I'm not sure. It's those guys that are running it. So for those that don't know, this week we announced last Monday that pedal board that I made with Tor at TC when I was in Denmark, we're giving it away. So it's a giveaway, and there's a video on my YouTube that describes how to enter and all that stuff. It's very simple. You just have to subscribe to my channel, which you guys probably all are, and if you're here. And you have to subscribe to TC's YouTube channel, and then you send an email to a certain address with your YouTube username, and that's it. And then they're going to randomly pick the winner. It's a great little pedal board with a fuzz, the rusty fuzz. It's got an overdrive and a distortion, and mini Hall of Fame, mini flashback, mini Corona. It's got their little compressor on it. Henrik gets it. Of course, it's Denmark. So Denmark. Yeah. Greenland is theirs. It's true. I didn't know that till like 5 years ago. I guess I just never thought about it. And then I had to look it up. Pretty one-track mind over here. Maybe most people know that. I just didn't, but help me out here. We got Interior BC. Love that place. Shred Before Dead. Where are you, Kelowna or something? I love it. BC is such a beautiful place, man. Do you guys know that, here's another little trivia, geographical trivia, that's what we're starting with today. BC is the size of California, Oregon, and Washington combined. I think that's amazing. And yet most of the people are kind of centered down there in that Vancouver area, and most of it is just this vast expanse of, natural beauty. It's such an amazing place. And we got hi from China here. Cool, man. Don't see a lot of people from China. I thought YouTube was kind of blocked in China. I don't know how that works. So maybe you're getting around that somehow. Or maybe that's not a thing anymore. I'm just not sure. Great to have you anyway. And Portugal, we got people from all over the place in here. Have I ever listened to Meshuggah? Just a little bit. Cool. I like it. I think actually I downloaded recently an Easy Drummer. There's like a metal drum pack with drum kits and grooves and stuff from the guy in Meshuggah. It's pretty great. Awesome sounds that I used on some stuff. All right. 57,000 people in Greenland. I know, yeah, not that many people there. Isn't that amazing? It's so huge, and there's 57,000 people there. This is incredible to me. It's kind of like the north of Canada, I guess. It's absolutely massive, and there's just not that many people there, because, of course, it's kind of harsh. But I'd like to go there sometime. Who goes to Greenland? Not that many people have been there, I wouldn't say, and it's probably beautiful and fascinating. I don't know. I got to go see it someday. And we've got Bangladesh in the house from Mehran. Mehran, I hope I'm saying your name right. It's very cool. All these folks from all over the world. Germany, excellent. So the TC giveaway. Please, if you haven't signed up for that, go enter your name and win that free little pedal board. It was a nice little board. Had pretty much everything on it you could need to do most things. Fuzz, overdrive, distortion, compression, delay, reverb, chorus for modulation, and a tuner and a buffer. Pretty sweet. It's small too. It's amazing we could fit it all on like pedal train mini. It was not really that big. Looking for a 2-volume, 2-tone scheme for Thornbuckers with Jimmy Page wiring, but with parallel coils instead of splitting it. You could totally do that. Yeah, do 2 volumes, 2 tones in the Les Paul and with push-pull. And you could do parallel instead of splitting. Yeah, just do a parallel in like both tone pots or something. Do push-pull. And how was the rhythm guitar tone created for the 40-foot Echo album? Okay, it's mostly going to be dual rectifier, both a 50-watt and, because the other guitar player had a 50-watt a rectifier, maybe it was called the Solo Head or something like that, and I had a 3-channel 100-watt, and so we used that amp mostly for the rhythm guitars. I did use my Top Hat Amplexador on some stuff, especially on some solos and maybe on a few rhythm tracks, and it had a very sort of JCM 800 kind of sound. And we mic'd Mesa cabs, I think, with V30s, I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember the cabinets. It's hard to remember the cabinets, but I know they were, shit, I don't even remember what speaker cabinet I used. I might have rented like a Mesa cabinet or something, because I can't remember using my own, but that was the sound of the day, kind of, and it is a good tone. I remember miking with a 57 and a Royer 121, doing that blend that had become so popular then. And Jim Wirt was the producer of that album, and he was a talented guy that had done Incubus and some other stuff. And it was mixed by Tom Lord-Alge, so it was mixed by... And I remember getting notes from Tom Lord-Alge saying that he felt like he barely had to touch the guitars as far as EQ or anything. He could pretty much just pull them up and they sounded great. And so I was stoked on that. It is a good sounding record, I think. It's a good sounding rock and roll record. I'm just going to text somebody right now. Who's hitting me up on text? Okay, so let's see. Christopher says he loves the Tim and Pete show with Justin. And you're asking about a specific chord progression. I'm sorry, I don't remember. I'd have to go look. A, C, G, D, probably. I'd have to go look. Generally, when we play on the Tim and Pete show and we jam or whatever, we just use kind of some simple jams, to try and kind of just not make it too complicated. We can just kind of it happens very spontaneously. Usually Tim starts playing something, I just kind of join in, and we just start playing. Let's see here. Greetings from Milano. Just finished watching the Immerse video. Oh, cool. That's the Nunaber Immerse, right? So that's the other pedal that they make besides this one and the Wet. They make a bunch of pedals, but this is a really good sounding tri-chorus. If you guys haven't seen the video, I did a video for this yesterday, and this is an awesome sounding chorus pedal with a whole bunch of different modes. Nunaber is interesting because they always give you sort of sounds that maybe didn't exist before. I mean, you can do like 2 tri-choruses in series or 2 tri-choruses in parallel in this pedal, or you can also do vibrato and tri-chorus at the same time, like some really deep modulation stuff going on in this pedal. Plus it's got a tri-chorus and echo setting, which is nice. You can get like a great kind of, traditional digital rack delay kind of echo going along with your super wide tri-chorus for ambient goodness. Really, really nice pedal. And there's question from Germany. Tell us about your Sir pickups. Are these high output pickups? No, they're not. They're the bridges of the Thornbucker Plus bridge is about 8.7K. The standard Thornbucker is about 8.3 or 8.4. So they would be considered, you know, on the sort of standard to maybe slightly hotter, you know, range of a PAF. And certainly, you know, most patent number sort of Gibson pickups from the 60s or T-tops or whatever, they were down below 8K. They were like 7 point something or maybe 8K on the top end. So my pickup's just a little bit hotter than that. And then the neck pickup is 7.3. So that's right there in sort of T-top territory or PAF. Patent number, PAF, T-top. I like them that way for clarity. Because my theory is that you can get gain from so many places these days with boosts and distortions. All you got to do is step on a clean boost. All of a sudden you've got like, you know, another 10 dB of output or whatever. So why sort of back yourself into a corner with a real high output pickup? Because you can't go backwards from that that high output thing. It tends to close down the top end a little bit. High output pickups I still like for some things. I do. I like a JB, you know, for certain things, or 14K, or I like the Super Distortion for some things, or a Duncan Custom, very similar. And maybe not a lot of people know, but a Duncan Custom is basically like it's a Duncan version of a Super Distortion as far as I know. It's about a 13.8 or 14K ceramic magnet, you know, same thing as a Super Distortion, so really similar. That's a good question from Gary. What wireless system have you found to be the truest representation of a lead or cable? Lead, you must be in England. Lead is what they call guitar cord over in England, right? In the UK. I have had really good luck with my AKG. It's digital, but once again, actually most digital wireless systems are going to be really good and really close to a cable these days. And the reason is because traditionally wireless there's been this compounding thing where, and it was due to like sending radio signal through the air. And there's like FCC laws and stuff like that where it can only have a certain amount of, I don't really understand it, but a certain dynamic range and bandwidth. So they had to use this compounding stuff when it was traditional analog wireless. That would kind of shrink the signal down and then expand it back up when it got to the receiver. And it would kind of shrink the dynamic range down to about a 30 dB range or something fairly small. And so there was always some sort of artifacts and stuff like that because of that. But with digital, you're just converting the signal into ones and zeros and stuff and then reconverting it back on the other end with the analog to digital, or digital analog converter, I guess. So anyway, what it comes down to is that most digital wirelesses sound really, really, really good. Like close to what you know, a cable would sound like, and especially like even the Line 6 stuff with the cable tone stuff, you can roll off a bit of the top end and get kind of the tone of a 20-foot cable or whatever you want out of it. They sound great. I mean, this is kind of like, I don't know if it's that big of a secret, but essentially like an inexpensive, you know, $199 or $299 Line 6 is probably going to sound just about the same as like an upper end Shure, to be honest. The tone is not going to be any better because once you go digital, it's all about those analog to digital converters, which are cheap actually, even for really good ones these days. And once you convert that signal to digital and then spit it out on the other end, it's like it's almost all the other features in the wirelesses these days, if they're digital, that create increased costs. For example, you know, my AKG has like 6,000 available channels and all kinds of RF scanning features and stuff like that. So you can find the best possible channel and stuff like that. So those things are probably going to increase the cost more if there's other DSP going on in the wireless. But honestly, that like I have a Line 6 G75, I think it's called, and it's got a tuner built into it, as well as like it can serve as an AB box, the little receiver that goes on the pedal board. It's great. It sounds amazing. It sounds awesome. So, and it's their upper end kind of pedal board model. It's probably $300 or something, whereas the cheaper ones are more like 200 or, you know, maybe it's 400. I don't know what it is actually. I'm not sure. But I had great luck for all these years sort of using my AKG. Like I got it in 2010 or 11 or something. I've used it ever since. It does have the occasional dropout, which bothers me a little bit. When I go to Japan, I use a Shure, upper end digital Shure. they provide it. They're very specific about wanting to have sort of control over the wireless there because they've got really strict laws in Japan when it comes to those things. So I just sort of let my tech deal with it as long as it sounds good. And he found a Shure that it's digital, it sounds fine. Adds a bit of noise, the only thing. That's what I find with the Shure. When it's going into gain, it's a little hissy. But it's not terrible. Jennifer's asking, as I prepare for my upcoming release show, which is like, it's like 2 weeks away. I'm still finishing the record. I'm actually about 9 songs done. I've got to do one more and do the whole. I've got to finish by Friday. So if any of you signed up for the pledge thing or anything like that, you're wondering, when am I going to get my stuff? It's like we have to fulfill by June 1st, I think. So it's coming up fast. But anyway, so you're asking, do I see myself putting a band together and playing out a little more often? Yeah, probably. The only thing is I've got touring this summer, so it would have to happen after I get back. Chris says 90% of BC looks like forest and mountains. It's awesome. It really is awesome. British Columbia, Canada, one of the most beautiful places on earth. Incredible. And Stone Groove is in Waterton Lakes, Alberta. What's up? I was just up there this week. Made a quick trip to Canada. And Denmark ruled Iceland for a long time. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Totally makes sense because it's right there. But, when is my next tour? We start in, I think it's July, are the first dates, and it's July and August in Japan. Christopher says he wants to change pickups in a Fender custom shop Strats. Should I go with Sir Landau's? I mean, they're great. I quite like them. I like the Landau Classics. They're a little lower output, I think, than the Landau Standard. So the Landau Standards aren't going to quite have as much quack, probably, in the 2 and 4 positions and stuff. And still, they all sound good to me. All of John's pickups sound really great. I personally use the V60 LPs from Sir. And I really like those single coils. But I do have the Landau pickup. A lot of people ask about the neck pickup in my Strat because they love my old Strat, and it's a Landau. And I'm not even sure which one it is. John just recommended it and put it in there. He measured the original pickup, which I found to be kind of dark in my old Strat. And he said, it's got a really low resonant peak. But let's try this other one. He said, you're going to like this. It's a Landau pickup. But I'm not even sure if it's the Standard or the Classic. I think it might be a Classic. But that pickup sounds incredible on that guitar, so he hit it out of the park with that suggestion. Let's see here. Going back, you were talking about smaller amps. Have you and John considered using the new tube tech? I've asked him about it and said, have you seen this thing? He hasn't seemed that interested in it. He's got his mind on a million things all the time, but actually his son Kevin might be more interested in it. Maybe I'll ask Kevin to take a look at it, see if they can get one or something. If Kevin's really into pedals and designing, he did the Alexa Chorus and designed the Ace, the little cab sim, and as well as the Eclipse, I guess he did. So Mini Riot, he had a lot to do with that too. So he's really into that world. So maybe the new tube thing would be cool for a small pedal or preamp type thing. Okay, I lost my place in the chat. Sorry, just one sec. Thoughts on Dumble amps? Overhyped or worth the arms, legs, and organs? Probably overhyped. I mean, they do sound amazing. I've played through a couple. Played through one in Japan a little while ago, and it was awesome. But, it's just a guitar amp. I don't know. It's like, I guess if you're Eric Clapton or Joe Bonamassa or something, you have that kind of scratch. It's cool, but most of us, it's like, the Sir Hedgehog is Dumble origins, and it sounds amazing to me, and it's a brand new amp and reliable and not $1 million. So, okay, I found where my spot here in the chat, and it's moving down. Christian says there's a lot of guitar players in Greenland, and I'd be welcome. That's awesome. That's really cool. Okay. Anywhere on third installment on the new pedal board? And you're curious how I ended up powering the Musicom Lab at 12 volts. I don't know. Friedman wired up the board, and he would be able to tell you that. He might have had to come up with a cable that splits between two of the things or something. And I think there's a little box that they made or something to kind of change the output from 9 to 12. I seem to remember that they built something to do that using their Friedman power supplies when they built the board. I don't have time, to be honest, to get that video done this week or anything. I'm frantically just trying to... I've got one more song to record this week and then have to get mixes to the mastering guy by Friday. So this week's just like, everything else is off my radar right now. And I'm just trying to finish this record because we've got to fulfill the whole pledge music thing and everything like that. So... it probably won't even be recording. I've got videos to do for pedals and all kinds of stuff, but I just have to finish this record. It's like the most important thing that I get done. And then as soon as I turn that in on Friday, I can relax for a second, and then I'll have a few weeks before I got to go on tour, and I can kick out a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. What pickups would I recommend for a Telecaster looking for an open and not too trebly sound? Something you might look into... would be, that's fairly readily available, would be something that has the magnets mixed. Like there's a Seymour Duncan pickup that's called the 5.2, I think. And that means that it's going to have Alnico 5 magnets for the lower pole pieces and Alnico 2 for the high strings, for like the E and the B, I think, or Alnico 2 magnets, and then the rest of them are Alnico 5. Something, or maybe it's the top 3 or Alnico 2. Can't remember. But anyway, I have Ron Ellis pickups in my Telecaster, and the bridge pickup has a similar thing where I believe it's Alnico 3 magnets for the top 3 strings and then Alnico 5 for the wound strings. And what that does is it warms up the tone of those high strings, the thinner strings. And so check out that Seymour Duncan pickup called the 5.2, and you might dig that for a, you want those low strings to sound twangy and stuff like that, but then you don't want the bright strings to be ice pick. The bright strings, the high strings. And the other thing is, don't discount a tone control on a Tele. Is a really, I use the tone control on my Tele a lot. More so than I do on most guitars, I think, to kind of just dial in the exact amount of high cut. Let's see here. Sir Rufus and Reloaded, in my opinion, what are the main differences? The original, there's actually quite a big difference between the regular Rufus and the Rufus Reloaded. The Rufus Reloaded, I believe, is the one that has the octave fuzz in it. So in the second mode in one of them, it's a very different fuzz sound. One of them is kind of more like I think, I can't exactly remember, but one of them is designed to be sort of a more mellow fuzz and then go to like a big muffy thing, and then the other one does the more mellow fuzz and then go to the Octavia thing, I think. So they're quite a different thing. So just look at the, maybe look at demos and stuff like that. I think I did a demo for both of them. It's hard for me to remember now. But yeah, it just depends if you need an Octavia or something. Okay. Let's see here. Pete, which top hat do you own? That's from Chris. Amplexador, 50. And I used to have a King Royale, which was awesome. That was his AC31. That was my main amp for a long time. I used the King Royale on tour with Five for Fighting, like way back in the day. I used to use it in a kind of an interesting way. I used it actually coupled with a 412. So I had the internal speakers running open back, and then I had a 412 running as well with that same amp. So it's kind of a lot of speakers for that 130 watt amp to be pushing, but it sounded great. And I would mic both cabinets and get a blend of the open back and closed back, and it sounded really cool, I thought. When I listened back, I was like, God, why did I ever move away from that rig? It sounded great, but really good for that style of music as well. It was just kind of, it was lighter. Didn't need like a real heavy tone. Question about neck heavy guitars from Sam Andrews. He says he recently bought a Sir Alt T Pro, loves the guitar and the pickups are awesome. It's a little neck heavy. Do I see this as a problem with a guitar? Like my SG's kind of neck heavy. Certain guitars, I don't know if the body, it's tough because it's like every two guitars are different and the weights are always varying a little bit. you tend to get used to it, I guess, if you've got a guitar with it. Most SGs kind of do that, you know, and people play those their whole career. So see if you can just kind of get with it and get accustomed to it, I guess. How do I like the feel of a painted neck? Says Ted. Can I feel much of a difference? I get used to, like on a Les Paul or something, it doesn't bother me. On certain guitars, it's like Telly's Strats. I like the raw thing a lot. And then on my signature guitar, we've got that. It's kind of a satin finish that feels a lot like an oiled wood kind of situation to me, anyway. It's very slick and never gets sticky or anything like that. But if I'm playing a Les Paul or something, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm pretty comfortable rolling with different guitars and the differences and stuff. It doesn't really bother me. Things like scale lengths and different radiuses, fret size sometimes. I generally like bigger frets, but I can move these days from a Tele to a Les Paul to a Strat to an acoustic and stuff like that, and just sort of take each guitar for what it is and get used to it. Then if you ask me my specific, okay, what do I really like? I guess it's my signature guitar, all combined into one. That's like if I can have the fret size I want, the radius I want, everything I want, here it is. Ideally. The Peach Slapper says, just bought a 53mm Thornbuckler Plus for my Strat. Should I put it angled or straight? It's fine to just put it straight. The 53mm means the pole pieces are going to space perfectly below your strings in a Strat. The angled thing really, I guess originally Strats and Tellys had an angled single coil, and then when Eddie started doing it in 78 or whatever, people started seeing him with his angled bridge humbucker, and it was because he said he did it because it was a regular Gibson pickup or whatever he had, and he changed the pickup a lot, but there was no such thing as a Fender spaced humbucker at that time, so they were narrow, so he felt like the outer strings were missing the pole pieces a little bit, so he thought he'd angle it, and then the pole piece on the one coil would kind of catch the high E string, and the pole piece on the other coil would catch the low E string, and there'd be some, kind of, you see what I'm saying. So that's why he was originally the one that did it, I think, with the angled humbucker thing. No need to do that, and it's probably actually kind of detrimental with a 53mm, because then the pole pieces are going to be too wide, I would think, for the strings. Ted says he just got a TC Viscous Vibe and he likes it very much. And what do I feel is the best position in the chain? Generally with Vibes, you want to put them up front, close to the front of your, generally it's like right out of the guitar, into a tuner and then into the Vibe, or into, like wah, Vibe, fuzz, all those three things kind of come up front, and you can do a little research and see how different people that use those effects actually use them, like Trower or Hendrix, where they were placing them in the chain, because sometimes people would put fuzz first and then vibe, or vibe first and then fuzz. But generally it's right up front there. You don't want to put it down after drives or anything. I'm Sucking Wind says, I wonder if Pete is going to comment on the Gibson bankruptcy. I don't know. What do you guys think? In a way, it makes me sad. It sucks that it's come to this, but it sounds like they're just going to spin off the Philips and consumer stuff, make headphones and crap like that, and try and focus more on the guitars, which is, I think, what we've all been saying for a long time. It's like just focus on what you're good at and what people actually want you to do. Maybe listen to your customers and listen to other people a lot, smart people in the industry and stuff, and don't be so, I don't know. I mean, I guess there was that thing that I actually reposted, the picture saying, Joe Bonamassa is trying to buy Gibson. I think it was all BS, but in a way I thought, well, that guy gets the legacy. I don't know. I just don't know if, like, my problem with Henry is I just don't know if he loves guitar, I think that's the hard part, is that with Gibson and Fender, it's like a love affair with art for guitar players. We love the instrument so much, and it's like, for somebody to be, you know, that whole Firebird X stunt, I think after that happened, I was just like, this guy just doesn't get it, you know? Like, you know, where he did a thing and he smashed an SG or something, and then here's the new guitar, you know? It's like, oh, dude, like, I don't want a USB port in my guitar, really, you know? I don't want that. I just want a really, really nice Les Paul, or 335 or whatever, and it's, I don't know. Why has it always got to be this, like, constant push to grow sales and move forward and just, you know, it's, I don't know. At some point, it's just like, it just became ridiculous. Do I ever do voiceovers for The Simpsons? No. Any new gear coming down the pipe that I can't wait to get my hands on? No, I kind of got my hands full still learning the aux, really. I've been using that a lot. There is something, it's a piece of software that I can't talk about yet, but that I'm waiting for, that I've had some hand in developing. And so I'm really waiting for that, and that's pretty exciting, I guess. But beyond that, you know, with gear, it's like, there's only so much time. I feel like I want to spend more time playing, actually, and less time with gear, to be honest. Let's see here. Do I use Logic Pro? Yes. And what about video software? This is from Steven. I use Logic Pro and I use Final Cut Pro. So that's all the Apple stuff. Let's see here. Mehran from Bangladesh says he's going to get a custom Sur, which is basically like my PT signature, with a roasted maple neck and Pau Ferro fretboard. Super excited. That's awesome. That should be a really nice guitar. I actually played one in France a while ago that had a roasted, it was roasted maple and it was bird's eye, and there was something about that neck where it just felt like, oh my god, it was like, oh, I almost wanted to, like, you know, switch my model to just the way that neck felt, the roasted bird's eye thing. And maybe it was just a visual thing too, but consider that, like, consider the Pau Ferro with maybe a roasted bird's eye or something, because it looks incredible, but it felt like, I swear it felt different than regular maple. It's probably just all in my head, but it looked really amazing. That should be a very nice guitar. Have I tried the Seymour Duncan Palladium gain stage? I have not. Any other Duncan pedals? No, beyond the Reverb that I did the demo for recently. But I am getting one of those power amp pedals things. What's that thing called? The Power Stage or something? 170? That's coming to me soon. Seems like an interesting, useful piece of gear. Yeah. Brett Laszlo says, thanks for asking the Mesa question last week. I recently have pledged for the signed CD. Awesome. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate that. It'll be coming soon. I recorded a track. I've been working on it for a few days now, but it's a very, very simple song, an acoustic thing that my friend Dennis was like, you should just do an acoustic song. Like, not everything has to be these opuses with, like, tons of guitars. And I was like, that's a good point. And it would also help me to finish the record. So I did one track that's like a very simple, you know, just a couple overdubs and stuff on it. And then I have one more song to do this week beyond that. And then I'm done. And I'm really happy with it. I'm really stoked on the record. So it's coming out great, I think. If I do say so myself. I hope you guys like it too. Blackstrap Blue says, looking forward to the PT50. How big do I think the head would be? Badger, Bella size, or full size? It's definitely smaller than what you're seeing. Yeah, I'm pushing to make it as small as possible. John doesn't want to ever compromise on things like transformers. So they're the, you know, they look like the transformer in a 50-watt plexi. They're sizable, but I'm really pushing to keep the head as small as it can possibly be. And it's definitely, you know, I can't promise Badger size, but that's what I'm trying to do. So with the 50, with you know, definitely shooting for that. Can't promise it'll be exactly that small. At the biggest, I would say it'll be like the size of a small blocks plexi, something like that. But hopefully we can keep it to the Badger size. Let's see here. DK Wild says, any experience with a Marshall 1965B 410 cab with G10 L35 speakers? I believe I had one of those, actually, in the 80s. I had one with a Marshall that I had then, and it was cool. I love that little 410 cabinet. It was really cool. People say they sound like greenbacks. You say, actually, I have a 10-inch greenback in my little Marshall cabinet that's sitting right here, and it's the G10 greenback. So, and it is a great sounding speaker in that little cabinet. And whatever was in that cabinet sounded like crap before. It was some old Celestion with a really small magnet, and I replaced it. And it, so I will say that if you want a 10-inch speaker that sounds like a greenback, just get the G10 greenback, to be honest, and it sounds great. It's a warm, woody thing. Henrique says, so what about this Bonamassa rumor? I think it was just a rumor. Talking about buying Gibson. I don't think it was true. What are my favorite acoustic guitars? Well, I have a few. I have a Martin D28 that I love, and I have a Takamine that I actually really love because it plays great, and it sounds really good too. It's cedar. It's got a cedar top, so it's very different. My old Larrivee back there that's on the wall, you guys probably can't see it, but that guitar sounds really good. Larrivee is a Canadian manufacturer. And I needed a good acoustic guitar around, this is probably around like 98 or 99 or 2000 or something, and that guitar was in a shop, and a friend of mine played it, and he goes, you know, if this said Gibson on it, we'd be really excited, because it sounded so good. And I was like, that's true. So it was only about $1,100 it was used, and I got it. So it's a really nice dreadnought. And I love Taylors, I really do. I think Taylor's kind of like the Sir of acoustic guitars, or maybe Sir is the electric guitar of, well, you know what I'm saying. But there's a similarity there as far as like innovation and quality control, and they just, Taylor makes beautiful instruments. That I really developed an affinity for Taylor when I was traveling around doing some fly dates with an artist, and I had to rent guitars a lot, and we were doing like acoustic things. I just had, it was too complicated bringing guitars, so we would just backline. So it was kind of a challenge because it's just whatever guitar showed up that day from the local rental company, I would have to deal with. And I realized quickly that Taylors are the best guitar to backline because they're at least going to be good. You know, even if it's been beat up for a while by the, you know, whoever's been renting it. They were consistently good, and they sounded good plugged in, and you could pretty much rent a Taylor and know that you were going to be able to be happy that day with the guitar that you got. So big fan of those. And I have one Taylor guitar currently. I have a beautiful 12-string that is kind of like I don't know what it's not really a jumbo body, but it's not a dreadnought, but it has the kind of, I don't know what you call it. It's an orchestra shape or what the hell it is, but it's mahogany back and sides and spruce top, and just a beautiful, it's like the last 12-string I'll ever need. Incredibly stable. For a 12-string, I can bring it from, I could drop it down to like D tuning, like all the way down a whole step, or bring it back up to standard tuning, and that neck, like it barely need a truss rod adjustment, and it just always worked. So let's see here. Is my SL68 off the shelf or customized for you? John made it for me. I mean, I don't know if he's made any changes to the amp, because mine was the very first one. So he might have made refinements or changed little component values or things like that. But as far as I know, it's exactly the same as the ones that he's doing now. I remember at one point he said, bring your SL68 down. I think I forgot to put something in it. And so there was one little part, like in the power supply or something, that he did change. But I think it's exactly the same as the ones now. Mine doesn't have a bright cap on it. I took it off. I really like the sound of it like that. It just works great with single coils, with humbuckers, with everything. It might be nice to have a switchable bright cap sometimes on that treble volume pot, but it sounds great, and I don't see a need to change it. I do have old tubes in it and stuff. It's got like old Tesla EL34s, and it's got a like probably a Bugle Boy in V1, and then a Mullard in V2, and I think it's got a Subtech LPS in the Phasenberger. All right. Stone Groove says, Sir, PT50, are they being made? Desirable for weight reasons. What do you lose going from 50 to 100? We don't make one right now. There's not a Sir PT50 made right now, but there will be soon. And I don't really see a reason for more than 50 watts these days for probably most guitar players. You can definitely do well with 50. you know, unless you're like a, it's kind of like a metal thing, like 100 watts, and you need the headroom. Or you know who else likes 100-watt amps? Is a lot of like, I think people that like Dumbles, you know, and they like a lot of clean headroom. And they like to play loud, and like loud and kind of clean with just, they're like kind of headroom snobs, some of the Dumble players. So, is Dumble even good? Yeah, they're cool. I mean, they're not all of them, though. You know, it's kind of like, I've played train wrecks I didn't really bond with. I've played probably like 5 or 6 real train wrecks, and a couple of them sound amazing. And a couple of them just kind of like, it's a little soft to me, a little squishy, a little like not that amazing. Like in some ways, some of the train wrecks I played, I like my Comet more, which is also a Ken Fisher design, because it was a little bolder, and so I'm a rock player. You know, it's like I like it to be a little stiffer and not be super squishy. Let's see here. Thoughts on the PMS pickup mounting system from FU Tone? I haven't checked it out. Not sure about that. Let's see here. Do you feel bridge and neck pickups the same or close output is best? I do like a close match in output, as I use the neck mostly. You know, I found like, I know like for instance Scott Henderson uses the same output across all 3 pickups, and then he just varies the heights. He doesn't have a hotter bridge pickup. And you can do that. With humbuckers, it's like I just found that I like a quite low output neck humbucker, like 7.3, like I was saying. And that can sound good in the bridge too. It can sound fine, depending, but what we settled on for my guitar was 8.7. So there's actually a pretty big difference between the 7.3K and then 8.7. But you know, a standard combo in the 80s and the 90s was a 59 in the neck and a JB in the bridge. Seymour Duncans, right? And a 59 is about a 8.2K output with Alnico 5 pickup, and then a JB is like 14 in the bridge. So 59 in the neck, real low output, real high output in the bridge, and that worked for a lot of people. So I don't know, you know, it's interesting to. There's a lot of factors at play with pickups beyond just that kind of that output that, you know, that people always seem to go by. Even me, I use it as like a, you know, a gauge or a guide. But anybody that really knows their stuff, like Sir, will tell you there's so much more at play. Like, you know, the Sir Doug Aldrich pickups, they don't really sound like super high output pickups to me, but they're like 17K or something. So I don't know how he does that, but anyway. I don't. Let's see here. Do I ever feel the desire to play another amp besides the PT100, like Bogner or Friedman? Yeah, I mean, I do, and I used other amps. I do use other amps. I mean, right here I have my divided by 13 on top of my original PT100 prototype. So many times I want an AC30 kind of thing, and so I'll use something else. It's a very specific sound to me that the PT100, one thing that the PT100 won't really do, EL84, you know, chimey thing. So I'll use a different amp. Or sometimes I want to use a, you know, I've got my old Marshall, and then I've got the SL68, so sometimes I want that true plexi kind of thing. You're kind of mentioning Bogners and Friedmans. I played a Friedman, the Butter Slacks recently on the thing I did with Doug Pinnick from King's X, where I played Dogman, because it just sounded right for that tone. It was a little more, it's real, like, it's a metal amp, you know? And for a certain thing, yeah, it sounded just great, you know? I mean, can I get that tone out of my amp? Pretty close, yeah, out of the PT100. But I like playing, you know, they don't mind if I use other amps sometimes and stuff like that, even though I have a signature amp. The main thing is that I know out of the PT100 all the way from crystal clean to quite dirty as a road touring amp or for sessions, I can get pretty much what I need out of the PT100, you know? It's from clean to dirty, and then being really reliable, and I know it's quiet, and you know the switching works, and they're just it's a road machine, you know. So that's why it's been my main touring amp for 10 years now, because it just does what you need it to do on the road. You know, beyond tone in the studio is one thing, and then I'll use different things, you know. But reliability on the road and versatility in one amp, you know, I don't want to get into using amp switchers and stuff anymore. I want one amp with a few channels that kind of does everything generally on the road. Having said that, who knows what happens. Next year I could get some tour and go, I'm going to take the SL68 and the Kelly, like I did in 2011 with Melissa Etheridge. That was really fun, just using like sort of more like no effects loops, running everything in front, A-being amps, old school. Do I like EMG pickups? You know, I have a bass here that just is a monster. It's my friend John Button's bass, and it's got an old P-bass body that he bought off eBay or something from the 60s, and a warm-off neck and an EMG pickup, and it sounds incredible. It's like, it blows my other bass, the old natural finish P-bass that I have, out of the water. T Crane's asking about, so having said that, I don't have a hell of a lot of experience with their guitar pickups. I would love to have a Strat with the David Gilmour setup, the old one that he used to use in the 80s, with the kind of the mid boost and all that. So that would be kind of interesting to have one guitar with those options on it. But I do love this bass pickup, the bass EMG, you know, P-bass pickup. Sounds whatever it's, and you know, that bass just cuts through a mix and sounds huge and warm and clear. T Crane says, how was Edmonton? It was good. Have I tried the Rev G3 pedal? You know, I have it sitting right here, and I'm gonna make a video for it this week, or probably for the next week, because like I said, I absolutely have to finish my record by Friday. So just a second on that. I promise I will get to it. I know the Rev guys are waiting for me to make a video for them. I'm sorry it's taking forever. Any advice on buying an audio interface in the $800 to $1,000 range? UA, I would get a Apollo Twin Duo. I think they're right around that range, 800 to 1,000. Do I still use aux? Yes. Sam says, do you still use the aux? Yes. I just got it. I feel like it's brand new to me still. Yeah, I love the aux. It's great. Love Shure Reactive Load and Celestion IRs too. Sometimes it's hard because I like the tone about equal. I think my favorite reactive load box, as far as just the load, is the Shure. Okay, so it's the ultimate. It's all the other things with the aux that make it fun too, like the DSP and stuff like that. Being able to, you know, the reverb and the delay and how the app and instant, you know, it's just so usable. So I like them both for different reasons. I think the Shure load is still kind of second to none as far as like making an amp sound and feel exactly like it's supposed to. But there's so many factors with these things. Any idea why any posts about PRS are met with a torrent of abuse? I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. PRS is an interesting company. It's very polarizing. I'm not sure why. You know, they make nice guitars, and you know, they make them in America. Well, not all of them. They make those SEs overseas, but those are good too. You know, it's like they're a good company. So I'm not sure why people give them a hard time. Let's see here. Which bitrate and audio settings do I use to record in my DAW? Generally 2448. I did a few songs on this record at 2488 too, and that's just because I was working with a drummer at his place, and he started them at that. And I was like, oh, I guess I have to. I mean, I could have downsampled, you know, or whatever to 48, but I just continued with those sessions at 88 too. For rock and roll, I just don't care. I don't know. I'm cool with 2448. I don't need to do 96K or anything like that. And then accidentally, I started one session at 44.1, which I wish I hadn't done, but I just like working. I don't know. It's almost like it's not like I've done tests on this, like rock and roll tracks at 44.1, 48K, 88.2, 96. I've had friends that have, and they've got their preference that they swear by, but I just kind of roll with 2448 and have forever. Okay. Do you ever try any Line 6 Variax guitars? You know, only briefly, and I would like to actually try them more, because they seem like really usable tools. And I would like to spend some more time with them. Lost my place in the chat. Backing out. Sorry, just one sec. Okay. I'm not going to go all the way back here, but let's start from here. Let's see here. What kind of BMW do I drive? How do you know I drive a BMW? That's from T Crane. 428. 428i. Currently. I love it. I've always driven BMWs for, well, going back 20 years, I guess. I got my first one in 96. 22 years. That's crazy. And I think I'm on my fourth one. But I just like them. They're reliable. I like the way they drive. They're the ultimate driving machine. Let's see here. Henry wanted to be the Elon Musk of the guitar business. It didn't do it for me. That says Keith. Yeah, except that Elon is a real visionary when it comes to, I don't know. Henry, he's like, so many of those decisions that they made were just like abject failures. Like, the reverse flying V and the Firebird X. And it was just like, it's like, did anybody like those? The robot tuners with the crazy neck and the wide nut. It was just like, give me a break. Have I ever jammed with Andy Timmons? No, but I know Andy, and he's a sweetheart, and he's a terrifying guitar player. I love the way Andy plays, actually, and he's an influence for sure, because he writes great compositions. When he plays, it's so vocal, and there's a lot of Jeff Beck going on there, I would say, and he writes songs, and that's what I love. He's not just a shredder or whatever. He writes great, memorable tunes. Does the Wampler Tumnus resemble a Marshall amp? No, it's a Klon style drive. I mean, I guess there's something, that kind of like, I don't know if it's ampy overdrive or what. I love the way it bonds with a Marshall amp, and anything that's sort of Klon based does a beautiful thing. When it combines with a Marshall, it's already on the edge of distortion. It just makes a beautiful vocal guitar sound. Yeah. My friend Dennis is reminding me. Okay, if there's anybody out there that wants a Helix HX, we have one in the pledge campaign, and along with it, you get a whole bunch of free stuff. So anyway, if you were going to buy a Helix HX, I want to get spammy here, but it's almost like a public service announcement, because if you were going to buy one anyway, if you get the one that's in our pledge campaign, you get a whole pile of free stuff basically with it. So just if there's anybody out there that's interested in the Helix FX, which is an awesome unit, by the way. Thoughts on the new Striper? Is there a new Striper? I didn't know that. Is Oz doing it? I knew that guy like 25 years ago. He was a nice guy. Guitar player from that band. I didn't even know that though. How was the TC trip? It was awesome. Oh yeah, so there are Helix HX. The bundle in the pledge campaign includes the native version of the Helix. So in other words, you're going to get Helix HX, but you're also going to get the native plugin that has all the amp modeling and stuff in it, which is normally, I think it's $300. So you can buy the Helix HX through a pledge thing, get a free plugin that is basically a Helix that you run on your computer. So it's a real good deal, plus other stuff. So check it out. It's at just go to pledgemusic.com and search for Pete Thorn, and you'll find it if you're interested. I think it's a smoking deal. Okay. Crackboy says, I was thinking to get it for an extra boost for solos and stuff. Do I think it will work that way? Yes, it's great. Tumnus is it's hard to go wrong with that. It's an awesome sounding overdrive, and terrific for, that's what I use an Archer, but it's very similar. The Tumnus and the Archer, one could go back and forth about which is best and all that, but they're both Klon-based drives, and they sound terrific. So I have no reservations about recommending it. Is there a big difference between the Nunaber Inspire and the Full-Tone Tri-Chorus? I don't know. I would have to get them. I was wondering that myself, because I have the Full-Tone too, but it's not like I've done an A/B. But I'll tell you what. I mean, the difference being, I love Full-Tone. I'm not, it's awesome, and if some people are going to want the original thing, but this is like this big, and you can throw it on your pedal board, so it's like hard to deny. It sounds amazing. really lush, beautiful sounding chorus pedal. I'm gonna sneeze. I can feel it. Moving down here. That's funny. Jam Junkie says Bonamassa is buying Gibson, one guitar at a time. That's a good point. I think you're right. Let's see here. Rio says, greetings, man. May I ask you, my band SIAGI, Saggy Band, has released a song called Camu Camu. I want to ask you to say short testimonial and say congratulations. I do congratulate you. I haven't heard the song, so I can't endorse it as a song, but congratulations. Hey, I think anybody putting out music. I wrote my Premier Guitar article and turned it in this week, and it's all about, I believe that the most important thing is writing and moving forward. Like, I got a little bit, was a little bit bummed this week to see that whole Guns N' Roses hype over a new release, and it ended up being a box set, which is a whole bunch of tracks, but evidently those tracks have been mostly available for a long time, like on the internet and stuff like that, and they're charging a real lot of money for this thing. And I thought, it's just like, people really want you to go make an album. That's it. That's all they want you to do. Write new songs and keep moving forward. As hard as it is, sometimes people don't support artists like, say, Paul McCartney or something when they make a new album, and they just go to the show and they want to hear the old songs. It's part of what keeps Paul young and vital. Young for, what is he now, 74, 75? It's like, he keeps making new records. And I commend him for that, It's just like, you can't fault the guy on his creative output. He's constantly putting out new stuff. So I think it's really brilliant that he does that, and I wish Guns N' Roses would just go do that, because we're talking about a band here that basically has 4 studio albums, in 30 years. It's like, just get in the damn studio and make a record and put it out, and then go on tour, and that's it. Make some new music. So, I just went off on a long tangent, but because that fella said, maybe you can give us a testimonial. I think it's great. Anybody out there recording music and releasing music. I know the motivation isn't there as much for these older bands, because they're like, well, nobody's going to buy it anyway. They're just going to stream it or download it. We're not going to make any money. Yeah, I know, but still, it's, otherwise you just sort of become a nostalgia act if you don't keep putting stuff out. Nobody accuses Jeff Beck of being a nostalgia act in his 70s, or Tony Bennett for that matter at 90 putting out an awesome live album. Or I don't know, you just got to keep making. I loved it when the Stones did that blues album. I mean, it was covers, I guess, but it was like they put out that blues album a few years ago, and it sounded amazing. And then they go tour, and it's great. It's like, put out music, man. Stop riding on that old stuff. Okay, moving down here. Have I tried any of Friedman's guitars? A little bit, yeah. I see Dave all the time and at the shop and stuff like that. And I haven't played them a lot through amps and stuff, so I can't really comment. But Dave, they're cool. They've got a vibe, and they're Dave's vibe. Most of them relict and stuff like that, and kind of that, slightly. He loves old Charvel and Jackson style guitars and stuff, and I think they've done a nice job. I mean, he's working with Grover, so. Last week I asked you if you might do a Syrupy T90 pickup. If I did, might the focus be in going well with a Thornbucker bridge pickup? I haven't really thought about it. I'm not really a P90 aficionado. I mean, it's like I like them, but it would be a ways off before I could have a signature P90 style pickup, because it's like I would feel like I would need to own at least a couple old juniors or something like that to have some sort of a base of, like, this is a really great P90 sound, something to base it off of. And I guess I'm just more well-versed in Strat pickups and humbuckers, to be honest. Even Tele pickups, I'm not as, I've only owned a couple Teles in my life. I've owned a shitload of Strats and Les Paul style guitars. Okay, let's see here. Eric says, will the PT50 amp come with bias adjustment points at the back of the amp for easy access? I've talked about that a little bit with John. He doesn't really seem to like that idea every time I've talked to him about it, because he feels like it opens up the possibility for people to... I know to me, there's the arguments for and against. His argument against is like that it can cause people to work on their own amps and maybe bugger them up, and they're going to have a lot of like warranty returns and stuff like that. But I sort of don't... He's just sort of, every time I've brought it up, he kind of poo-poos the idea a little bit, so I think he just sort of doesn't really believe in it. But you know, he sees a customer service nightmare waiting to happen. I think they would just rather... you know, one thing that Sir does is they label their tubes on the top and on the bottom of the bass with numbers that they match them, you know, really closely, and you can buy a set of tubes from them that are matched to those numbers. They can go through, and so essentially, like whatever your amp was biased for, if you get another set of tubes that's exactly the same, and that's what those numbers mean, how they correspond and stuff like that, then you can just pop them in without having to rebias. And I think they sort of like to roll that way. It's a little like the Mesa thing, in that Mesa was like, you know, the Sir amps aren't this fixed bias where there's no bias adjustment or whatever, but Mesa used to do this thing where it was color-coded, and they would just go through and literally just match tubes and be like, okay, if your tubes have the red thing on them, you know, then it's like you just get another set of the red ones from the store, and those are, all they were was matched, biased, exactly, you know, matched so that they'll bias exactly the same or whatever as the ones that were in your amp. And they just saw that as being a sort of foolproof, and there's something to that, I think. You know, that said, I would like there to be bias points on the amp, because I'm cool with that, but I could see, you know, people, it's getting worse and worse out there as far as people's knowledge of tube amps. I will tell you that. Like, people do not understand, like, even like they did 10 or 15 years ago, you know. A lot of, and I attribute it to a lot of people are coming up, they're buying modeling amps, they're using Axe FXs or plugins or whatever they're using, you know, and they're not as versed in tube amps anymore. And it seems to be, I don't know if that means tube amps are going the way of the dinosaur or whatever, but it is like, more and more I hear from tube amp manufacturers, you know, it's people like the questions they get in email are just like, you know, it's like people really are beginners with tube amps many times when they buy them these days. So I could see that there's a, you know, when you're moving a lot of amplifiers and stuff like that, there's fear with people sort of doing servicing on their own and stuff like that, you know, on the manufacturer end. There's a lot of sort of, you know, they want to sort of lessen the chances of, you know, disaster or, you know, that sort of thing. So, okay, moving on. Sorry, I'm going to try and go faster now. I should go relatively soon because I got to work on my record. Countdown has begun. Can I suggest an overdrive pedal for boosting solos? That's Crackboy again. Yeah, I mean, the Tumnus you were saying. That, or I use a Rockaway Archer right now, which is the Steve Stevens version of the Archer. It's got an EQ on it, which is really nice because you can, if you really want to get like on a mid-cut kind of thing, you can boost that EQ up, and I find that's really, really fun on that pedal. But Tumnus is great. Definitely. Okay, Chris says 100 watts is for the headroom. Yeah, I mean, you know, with metal players, I mean, often I think they just like that low, when they lean into the low end and the chunk and that kind of thing, they want the 100 watts to really like, and with 50 it can be, it's a little soft, you know. But the reality is, if you just turn the amp down a little bit, you know, I just don't know if we can all play that loud anymore anyway. But I get it. I mean, for a certain thing, 100 watts is just, it's bold and it's cool. What vintage pedals do I have around? Not many. Everything I have is relatively new, to tell you the truth. I would really have to think about it. Oh, I have a vintage Phase 90, like an original scripty Phase 90. I have a vintage Distortion Plus. I have, I mean, at this point it's vintage, early 90s Green Rhino and Experience pedal. That original kind of Hendrixy pedal. That's an awesome sounding pedal. God, what a good sounding fuzz. Kind of quirky with the controls, but really great. Terrific tone. But beyond that, I don't have a hell of a lot of vintage pedals. Most of it's new stuff. Panthro98 says going to see your boy Sloan tonight here in Connecticut. That's awesome, man. Enjoy. Love Sloan. Love Sloan. Great band. Canadian band, indie rock band from Canada that's been around forever and writes great songs and a hell of a lot of fun. If you guys haven't checked out Sloan, check out Sloan. If you like cool kind of, sort of like almost like British Invasion tinged meets 90s indie rock. Very, very cool band. Alrighty. Guitar Hack says, played a gig last night with my P90 Les Paul and was getting feedback with higher gain. Any thoughts on how to prevent it? It's tough if your pickups aren't potted and you're at a gain level where you want that gain and you want that certain level of volume on stage, but it's just feeding, so you kind of got to just move around, or you have to, one thing you can do is just lower the volume control. Like, this is a quick fix. Lower the volume control for that pickup just like from 10 to 9.5, and you'll probably find that the little squeal goes away. And then as long as you're playing, you can like just turn it all the way up to 10, and then as soon as you stop playing, just turn it down a hair. That's kind of what I do many times, is like, if I know I'm going to stop, I'll just roll the volume down just a little bit, barely, and it just takes the edge off that pickup to the point where, and sometimes it's enough, like, you can just play like that. It neuters the sound ever so slightly, because of course you're just rolling down the volume a hair, but that will generally solve that problem. So it's all kind of a balancing act of like, when you're in front of the monitors and the monitor guy's got your guitar cranked in there many times, like on my Japanese gig, that happens where the singer likes him to turn up the solos in the side fills and also in the front wedges. So you'll go up to the front of the stage to play a solo, and all of a sudden you realize your guitar's like ripping loud in the monitors, and you get feedback, that kind of unpleasant feedback sometimes. And you just have to kind of mitigate it a little bit with that volume control, I find. Will the PT50 be only 50 watts? Will it have lower wattage selection? Well, there's going to be a lower wattage version of the amplifier. So on the 50, yeah, I think we had talked about doing actually like a half power, like 50-25 kind of switch, or 40-20, whatever the amp ends up being. But there's also going to be a lower power version, which is what people are kind of screaming for these days, a lot of people. So maybe if you don't need 50 watts, stay tuned, because coming pretty soon. We're pretty far along on that one. Okay. Aaron says, greeting from Mexico. I have a question. Any advice on pickups for Basswood Telecaster body? Basswood's kind of an interesting wood. It just depends. Are you talking about single coils or humbuckers? A lot of guitars are made out of basswood. I mean, there's all the way across, like basswood's actually like one of Sir's favorite woods, combined with a maple top, I think. And it is kind of a cool tone wood. When I think about my Van Halen guitar, my EVH Wolfgang, it's basswood with a maple top. And it has the EVH pickups in it, and it's a distinct sound, and it's a really, really good sounding guitar for hard rock, I have to say. And I like those pickups a lot. The guy that designed those pickups is actually at Sir now. His name is Seiki, and he was working at Fender, and he came up with that design. And it's a high output Alnico 5 kind of pickup, and they sound great in that guitar. They do. So that's one pickup, I guess. The EVH. The Wolfgang pickups. I know it's a great hard rock sound, and that's kind of my only basswood guitar, I guess, that I have right now. But I'm not anti-basswood, that's for sure. Any good ugly guitar stories? I picked up a cool Carvin S-Type that is ugly but sounds cool and has a great neck. I always can't get past the ugly guitars. It's like I don't want to play them or even pick them up when they're ugly. I'm a snob. Friedman's got a couple cool ugly guitars. He's got like a Guild or something. It's an 80s one that's like walnut colored and has kind of a pointy body, and it's ugly, but he likes his guitars like that, which I can appreciate that. I remember having like a Washburn I was in London as a kid, and I had a few $100 to spend on a guitar, and I wanted to buy a guitar in England. I just wanted to do that. And I was like 14, and I remember buying this Washburn that was like one of those. It looked kind of like a small Explorer with a hockey stick headstock on it, and it was pretty ugly. But I bought it because it was like I needed to buy a guitar, and I had 10 minutes to find one. I remember when I was at the store, and it was like, oh, that one looks kind of cool. I'll take that one. That guitar was kind of a piece of shit, but it was. I don't know if it was that ugly. It was just kind of like it was one of those body shapes that never really caught on. Do I feel tap tempo is necessary for delay? That's Jay. For me, kind of, yeah. It's not a. I do miss it. Like I've got my Echoplex pedal on my board, which is right beside me here, and I've got the tap tempo switch sitting here, and I'm gonna get Dave to wire up a cable for that tap tempo switch, because even on the little Echoplex, I'd like to have that tap tempo. You know, it just feels like I want it these days. I don't think it's 100% necessary, but it's most of the time I really do appreciate it. It seems like a pain in the ass for me now to adjust tempo manually on a delay. I'll say that. It's one issue I actually have with the aux, is that the delay is hard. It's kind of hard to set the delay time. At least I haven't been. Maybe there's a feature in it where you can either tap it or lock it to. I mean, you can't lock it to your DAW because it's not MIDI up or anything. It's in front. But it would be nice if you could enter in an exact delay time. And that's the only issue I really have, actually, is the delay on the thing. I'm constantly trying to. It's turning the knob on the iPad screen is kind of hard. And anyway, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's another way to do it. It would be nice maybe in a future software update or something if they added like tap tempo to the delay screen on the aux, I think. Okay. I think there was a Will's Easy Guitar video on pickups about output power not being a true representation of measurement of how hard the pickup will push. I think that's fair to say. Yeah, that's from Ted. Yeah, we were talking a little while ago there about the output, like 8.2K or whatever, but that's not really. It could. There's a lot of factors with. With pickup output, and somebody should write an article on that knows more about it than me, and what the actual, like all the considerations you have to sort of factor in with pickup output. Jason says, what's the average weight of your signature Sir guitars? So they're all under like 8, I think, 8 or 8.5. That feels heavy to me on a guitar like that, and so yeah, they're all generally under like 8 pounds. I think the general kind of 7 point something range. Yeah. Do I have or use Trainer? I don't have a Trainer. My first amplifier was a Trainer, a little 10 watt solid state thing. But I have an appreciation for those early YBA1 heads for sure, which were like, they could be converted into basically a plexi real easy. Let's see here. I know you have a Vox amp in your studio, says Samuel. Could you say in which cases you use it? So to me, the Vox Tone and that AC15 that I have, and this also my divided by 13 RSA 31 back here, which is basically a Vox circuit, is great for, for lack of a better explanation, Tom Petty, like anything that's kind of rootsy, that edge of breakup thing. I love Voxes for their chime and for the sound. Is it dirty? Is it clean? It's actually kind of dirty, but it doesn't really sound like it. The pushed sound. And they can sound beautiful clean too. Actually, my AC15 on that normal channel with the bright switch on, the cut up around 3 or 4, and you can use the low gain input and run it on about 2 or 3. It's a beautiful clean sound. Just a great, wonderful clean sound. Most of the magic happens though when you turn it up a little bit louder and run it on like 4. 4 to 6 is the magic range to me. And then kind of, you can use the top boost channel then too if you like. And you run the treble up around anywhere between like 4 and 6 kind of, and then the bass down around 4 maybe. And just cut to just take off the high end if you're using a Strat or Tele or something, just a little bit. And it's just this magic, that it's like the sound that the Edge, sort of made his career on. Just a wonderful kind of, there's compression and there's that chime, and it just sits in a mix beautifully. Don't have to do much with it, like EQ wise, and it just feels good to play too. See, the other thing, Voxes, the way they kind of squish, and it's a really, really nice. There's a natural compression going on there. Do I think pickup covers cut high end? Yes, they do. It's demonstrable, and we measured it actually at Sur when we were coming up with the nickel covers for the pickups. They were the ones that had the least effect, the raw nickel covers, on affecting the tone of the pickup. Chrome has more of an effect, and gold has a big effect on the amount of high end of the cuts, and we measured it. I'm not sure how we measured it, but there's a measurement, Sur could tell you. And it's demonstrable using science, and it's also quite audible. We noticed it, but very, very little difference using a raw nickel cover and an open coil pickup. Almost like it was like negligible. Basically sounded the same. Whatever the measurement was, it was like 5, blah blah blah, whatever's. Whereas chrome was like 20, and then gold was like 40. You know, that's. Sound like an idiot. Not. I can't. I'll find out the information and I'll tell you next week or something like that. What the measurement was. But anyway, you would definitely hear it. Everybody would hear it. Have I looked into a full tone? Oh, this is for somebody else. Sorry, you guys are talking amongst yourselves. Okay, moving on. T Crane says GitCon. As far as I know, I'm going. I still haven't talked to Henning to find out what's going on with him and his event and how he feels about the whole thing and stuff. But as far as I know, I'm supposed to be going. Unless they've decided, who knows? Anything could happen. They could be like, well, the whole thing is soured, and so we're not going to do it or something. I don't know. Or maybe they are doing it, moving full steam ahead. I haven't heard anything since the controversy. But the last I heard, I was attending. They wanted to do it, and they asked me to go. So. Let's see here. Find another question. Oh, Oscillation Overdrive. This is a good question. He says, what are some ways to find musicians to play with? Do you know of, or can you recommend any online sites like Bandmix? Well, I just joined this thing called Jam Card, and it's in LA, and it's kind of a it's sort of like a LinkedIn meets Instagram or something. I like it. It seems like you have to be invited to join, or maybe have a friend invite you, somebody that knows. It's like a kind of curated sort of list of musicians, I guess, that are kind of pro touring or session people or whatever. There's also techs on there, sound techs, sound people. So it's a little bit like a LinkedIn for the music industry. So that's one resource. And then just good old-fashioned getting out and going to clubs and meeting people is kind of how I always did it. There's no substitute for that. Any thoughts on Maybach guitars? No, I know about Maybach Mercedes though. You guys ever see those? They're like the super high end. They're like like the Mercedes Bentley sort of. Maybach guitar. Sorry, I got off the weeds. No, I don't know about them, but I'll check them out. Sound interesting. Alrighty. What pedals would I use with one amp, like a Plexi on 10? That's from Yago. Well, probably an Echoplex. And I would say an Echoplex, a Phase 90, and an MXR flanger. Oh, wait, some guy already did that. Those are the pedals I instantly want to plug into that sound. Not very creative, I know, of me, but they definitely work. We know that with that setup. Any suggestions for a good multi-effects processor or amp simulator for practicing with headphones? So many. I mean, you could use a Helix, you could use a Axfx. The AX8 I have sitting here is great for stuff like that. Kemper has a nice headphone out. Something more simple, I would say practicing with headphones. I mean, I love my little, on the other end, I love my little Blackstar that's like $60. It's got a headphone jack on it. It's super tiny, hotel room amp. I think you're looking for a little, you say multi-effects, you're looking for a little more. Probably like the Helix LT or something, just the light version, would be great. I'm a fan. Okay. What's my thoughts on reverb stacking? I like it. I like hearing different reverbs kind of feeding into one another. Basically, a reverb is a whole bunch of delays combined. and so you're just, at that point, you're just combining more delays. So yeah, you can get some, if you're trying to do an ambient thing, combining 2 delays or combining 2 reverbs or delay and reverb, it tends to give you the beautiful wash that kind of, where they all feed into one another. Maybach guitars are made in the Czech Republic. Okay. Let's see here. Any advice on fret wire type and size for a Strat neck? I would go either 6105. It's hard to go wrong with that for most people. Like if it's like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna like, it's like just get 6105. If you sort of know you like big frets, then 6100 is hard to go wrong. That's my favorite these days, the big ones. I grew up on them in the 80s, and I realized recently it's like, don't screw around, just use what you knew you liked 20 or 30 years ago. So I bond with big frets. I just like them. But I can play on 6105s, and I'm quite happy. They're just a little more narrow and not quite as tall. John is saying, any thoughts on Lsl guitars? They're made in California. Have you ever come across any? I don't know that much about them. They're kind of a Sir competitor, and I'm happy with Sir. So I'm loyal to my buddy John, I guess. And I don't feel like I need to look elsewhere really for that style of guitar. Andrea says, cheers from Milano. How was playing along with Chris Cornell? Time of my life. I loved it. Loved it. Definitely watch. Oh, you guys are talking still about pedals here. Okay, amongst yourself. Ignore the trolls. There's a couple trolls. I was gonna get a troll thing this week, and then I just didn't get around to it. You can like block people. I'll get on it. Just, who cares, right? Let's see here. The worst guitarist I've played with, I can't say that. I'm gonna move down in the chat a little bit, guys, because I've been going about an hour and 20, so it's time to go soon. Yeah, I guess you guys are reporting people. That's good. I need you guys to kind of moderate, unless I've got a moderator, because I don't, I can't, I'm not always down all the way in the chat. I can't do it. I have to get somebody involved in doing this, and I never really wanted it to be that complicated, This is just supposed to be a fun thing I did for an hour or so on Sunday mornings, and not like now I've got a moderator and a team to, so. Okay. This is interesting. Ted says, I think he's talking about the comment I was making about the GNR box set. He's saying, when Metallica released Saint Anger, they said they didn't want to become a parody of themselves. In other words, come see the hits. Yeah, I mean, it's great. They put out music. That album, a lot of people didn't like it, I guess. But, I mean, at least they tried something different. And, you're saying, Ted, also, I think the GNR thing is simple. They want the money. But it's sure not very, punk rock or rock and roll or in the spirit of, I don't know. It's just kind of like, oh, give me a break, like, go ahead and do that, but make a new album, at least. I don't know. I was a little disappointed. Like, because I'm kind of a fan, I guess, is what I realized. It's like, I like that band. I saw that band before they ever broke. I saw them in '86, opening for the Cult, '86 or early '87, and nobody knew who they were yet, And I remember that record. It was amazing when it came out, but now it's just like, Jesus, like, can we just move on, Let's see here. This is a good question from Jennifer. She's saying, of all the tours I've been on, of all the musicians you played with, who might you point to and say, wow, they really upped my game? Pretty much everybody that I worked for. You learn something from everyone. You really do. But Chris or, Don Henley is the first thing that comes to mind, where many times I would look over at him and just points in the show where I didn't have to play, and I just look at him and realize, like, I'd forget I was on stage with him, and it was like I was at the show just watching him sing, and be like, man, that is some world-class, like, lyrics and just his demeanor and everything, you know. I mean, say what you want about that guy, but he's a legend. He's done some amazing work. So I would just be like so proud to be on every gig with Don. Actually, after the gig, I had this feeling like of real accomplishment, you know, where I was proud of being there and proud of getting to that place, because I felt, you know, it's just kind of an intimidating guy, and it was like kind of scary at times. But to be up there and play that music and stuff was, you know, with him, you had to be on your top of your game. You know, you had to practice and warm up for the show, and then really stay focused during the gig. It was, you know, it wasn't like a loose fun time all the time, I would say. You know, I mean, I definitely had fun, but you know, you didn't want to be the one screwing up or making mistakes or whatever, certainly in that situation. So anyway, he was the one that really, I felt like when he hired me, I had an incredible amount of pride about getting that gig, you know, because I'd auditioned for the gig in 2000, and then I didn't get it, but I was the runner-up. Peter Stroud got it that time, who plays guitar with Sheryl Crow, good friend of mine, amazing guitar player. And he hired the right guy in 2000, you know, because I was a little green, but he liked me. And then all those years later, I got to go back, about 9 years later, and I walked in for my audition or whatever, you know, and he said, "Hey, Pete, what's going on? Good to see you again," you know, that kind of thing. And I did it, and I practiced so hard to get that gig. I'd practiced so hard in 2000 to get it. So, you know, I was playing a lot of the same songs again 9 years later and working really hard to get it. And when I had to do a callback, I did the audition in 2009, did a callback, and then he hired me right there. He said, "All right, well, you're the guy." And I was like, it just felt like I'd sewed up a part of my life where I wanted to get that gig so bad, and then I did it, I accomplished it, and it was a real, you know, the feeling for the next couple of days was a real source of pride for me. I was so excited about that. And then it was hard work. I had to work really hard. Anyway. And also Melissa Etheridge. You know, she was when you see her on stage, she doesn't really like to rehearse that much. She's a kind of spontaneous performer. But you know, you see her rehearse and it's like, oh, okay, I get it. And then you see her on stage and she's upped it 200% for the performance. And it's like really like, oh man, I better like step it up. There's some world-class shit going on over there at the center of the stage. So I really like, and she liked a lot of improv on stage, and there would be a lot of guitar solos, at least for the first couple of years that I was doing it. I had to play a lot of, you know, every song. I was like, God, I got to practice because I don't want to like repeat myself. You know, there'd be extensions in songs, and she'd point at you and take a solo or whatever, and you just, you know. So I felt like I had to work to make it interesting, and that was I learned a lot from her too. Okay. Rosaletti says, sorry to bother you, but you really need some moderators. A lot of people are being bothered, and I see some multiple account activity. I do too. I know. I don't really know exactly the way to tackle it, but I guess maybe I got to look at getting a moderator if I'm going to do these. At that point, to be honest, guys, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it, though, because it's just kind of a pain in the ass, you know? I don't know if I really want to liaison with somebody every Sunday morning. It's possible. If there was somebody that offered to do it, you know, that I trusted, you know, I might get into it, but I don't know. Anyway. All right, so I'm going to go another 10 minutes or so, answer a few more questions, and I'm out. Gotta go. What are my thoughts on the Ethos pedal? I think it's great. They make great preamp style. You know, the Ethos clean is awesome. The one I did the video for sounded terrific. So I think they make a unique, really cool product that fills a niche. Okay. Will you do a review on the Marshall Origin 50H? I still haven't opened up my demo reviews to other amps outside of doing the Sur stuff. So, you know, I'm probably not going to do the Origin anytime soon. I mainly do the pedal thing, and then I'll do the, you know, amps in the zone is a different thing. It's like the few amps in the zone videos I've made for the Fender and the Marshalls, you know, that's different. That's kind of like, okay, let's have some fun as guitar players and try. I feel like when I'm making a demo that, you know, it's a little bit of a conflict of interest to do the Marshall and stuff like that. So it's just it's something that I'm still trying to sort it out. Like, should I be worried about that or not? I'm just not really sure. So, have I ever tried a Fender Blues Deluxe? Sure. I mean, they're pretty good. I sort of, the only problem I have with the Fender Blues Deluxes is that they're so kind of generic at this point that a lot of people have them, and it's a little, I don't know, like, it's a little boring if everybody uses the same thing and then just runs pedals into it. That's what I find. I don't have a problem with it, though. I think it's a good basic amp. I never liked the drive. They're kind of a good basic clean sound, and then you hit it with pedals is the way it seems to work with those. So, how do I get over a player I don't like? I just don't listen to them, I guess. Or I tend to, I'm a pretty positive guy. I tend to try and find things I like in just about every, if I go see a band and they generally sort of suck, you know, and I can always sort of find something I like. I like the bass player, or, you know, the drummer's cool, or, well, they have good songs, they don't play, or whatever, you know. I'll try and find the positive thing. Because generally you know, most people have something that they do well. You know, so I try and keep it positive. Clement says, French fan here, how did I end up playing with the French singer Mylène Farmer? It was through an American liaison that works a lot with, he's a French guy, and he works with musicians and artists in both France and America. And he called me about it, actually, because he's very still tapped into the France music scene. And I'd also had friends like Brian Ray from Paul McCartney's band. He used to play with Mylène as well. So he was like a connection as well to that gig. Okay. Do I listen to any Devin Townsend? I haven't really. I remember when he did that record with Steve Vai in the 90s, and beyond that, I don't really know that much about him, but I know he's really excellent. You know, has a lot of fans, so I should listen closer, I guess. Okay. Moving down. Did I ever check out Ty Tabor's band, Jughead? Yeah, I did actually, back in the day. One of the best albums ever. It was really cool. Yeah, he's such a great guitar player. It was Matt Bissonette and Greg Bissonette. Have I ever met those guys? Yeah, I've played a little bit with both of them, actually. I did a session with Greg for Dawn, for the Cass County album, and I played with Matt Bissonette, God, 20 years ago, I think we played on the Tonight Show together or something, he subbed on bass in a band that I was touring with. Great musicians. Don't know Derek, really, but yeah, Greg and Matt are awesome. Does anybody know that Greg does oh shit, now I forget. He does voiceover for The Simpsons or something? He became the voice of somebody. You could probably Google it and find out, but somebody heard him, he's got a really cool speaking voice, and somebody heard him talking at a party and said, hey, do you ever do voiceover? And he was like, I would give it a shot, you know, and he ended up getting this gig doing the voice. I wish I knew. You could probably Google it and find out, but I thought that was interesting. Randomly found himself in another career that is probably far more lucrative than playing music, actually. Any more LA area demos or lectures this month or summer? No, but I wish that I did. I wish I had more of the clinic thing coming up. I just kind of run out of time, like trying to get this record done, finish another record, Holly's record. I'm still working on it, and then I got the summer touring and stuff, and then just with videos and stuff, I just kind of can't take on any more projects. So it's like, yeah. Let's see. Thornley JM, as Chris Cam is asking a question about it. It has the SSH Plus bridge, which is pretty hot. Do I think lowering it into the body would reduce the output? Well, yeah, for sure. It's gonna, lowering it will reduce the output. Give it a try, but not change the tone. Yeah, I mean it'll, you have to just go ahead and give it a shot. Maybe measure it and then drop it. See if you can find some different sounds that you like in there. It is a pretty hot pickup, the SSH Plus. How do you block the infantile half-wit? Well, I looked into there's a extension I can use in Google Chrome, and I can add people so that you won't see their comments. But I just didn't have time to get it this week, so I can try that. But the only problem is, you guys, it's going to kind of cut into my... I mean, I'll give it a shot. I'll tell you what, I'll try and get it going for next week. But you know how far behind I get in the chat, and then it doesn't really help, Anyway, let's see here. Let's see, I'm actually finding... Oh, that's interesting. I think I just did it. I didn't realize I could do that, but I think I might have just handled it. Sorry, guys. That was easier than I thought it would be. I didn't even know about that feature, but I think I just was able to hide somebody from the channel that's annoying people, so... hopefully that'll work. Oh. Didn't even know I could do that. Oh, it's easier than I realized. You learn something new every week. Thoughts on the Evertune. So the Evertune bridge is this bridge that keeps your guitar in tune forever. You can't do alternate tunings, you can't do drop D even or anything like that, but once you string up the guitar, it uses a system of kind of balances and springs and stuff like that to keep the guitar perfectly in tune. And I have mixed feelings about it. I played a guitar with it, and I thought it was an interesting, maybe to have like one guitar, with that on it in your studio, where it's just like, God, I just got to get this track done. I don't have time to keep tuning my Les Paul. Grab it and just do it on that guitar. Or I've heard that producers like it for young bands, because it's like if people have, if you're in the studio and it's like guitar players can't tune that well yet and stuff, they seem to like have that guitar around for just, here, you're going to play this. And so I think they serve a purpose, but certainly on stage I could see the advantage of, many times it's like singers want to go from song to song to song to song, but you'll be a little out of tune. You know what you want to tune, you don't have time. It's like there's something about just staying in tune that's pretty rad. My angle on it is a little more like, I love that new bridge that I have on my guitar that's a prototype that I've been messing with. It's a Wilkinson that's got the locking saddle situation, and it seems to be pretty great as far as staying in tune. So like with the Sir guitars in general, they stay in tune so well. So I don't have a lot of problems with, I don't feel generally, it's mostly on, like, you see guys that have Gibsons with them, I find. Like, my friend, I've got a buddy that tours and stuff, and he has a 335 that he had it put on, which is like, man, you really got to tear a lot of wood out of that guitar, to put this thing on a 335. But anyway, he did it, and he loves that guitar, and he uses it all. It was even a vintage 335, I think, and that's a bold move. But I guess that's how much he wanted to stay in tune. Okay, I'm moving down. Douglas says Pete is doing awesome, not saying anything about trolls. Yeah, but I just found this awesome way to block people that I didn't know. I think that's a relatively new feature, maybe not, I don't know, but I do try and just ignore them. I mean, it's part of being a YouTube person or Instagram or whatever. You kind of have to, like, you just, like, you don't give it any time, because the more you feed into it, that gives them what they want, right? But I know that not everybody feels that way, so it's unfortunate if, somebody's bothering people in my scene here. Anyway, okay, a couple more questions. I'm gonna go, you guys. I gotta go get some lunch and then work. Do I play any low-cost pedals that the masses can afford? Well, I really liked a lot of those TC pedals that were on that board that we made for the giveaway, and a couple of those, like the Rusty Fuzz, I think they're like $40 or something. They're super cheap. Other inexpensive pedals, I have a Boss Hyper Fuzz on my board, which is not an expensive pedal. The Echoplex is not expensive. I think they're $120 $125 or something, 150. Let's go 125. I have a Phase 95, which is just a, you know, standard run-of-the-mill Phase 95 little mini pedal. I've got the regular Boss Mini Crybaby on my board. I've got the Boss Harmonist, which is easily available from any Guitar Center or whatever. You know, these aren't expensive pedals, really. When I look at my board, they're not super boutique. I've got, you know, 2 MXR pedals, 2 Boss pedals, 3 MXR pedals, actually. 4 if you count the wah. So I would say that I'm a pretty, you know, I like a lot of, you know, Boss and MXR, and if you can get one of those and it does the job, by all means use it, because they're super durable, reliable, and you can find them anywhere. So if you do need another one, if it breaks for whatever reason, you can find them. Okay, what do I use the Kelly for these days? I haven't played it a lot in the last couple of years, to tell you the truth, but every time I plug into it, it's great. I haven't had that much opportunity. I'm going to tour my new CD. I'd love to do some gigs. Maybe start around town, play, you know, baked potato gigs or something like that. That would be cool. What gear did the 14-year-old Pete Thorn have? God, it's hard to remember, because by 14 I was deep into guitar and I was trading and just as much as I possibly could. But I think I had around then I got had a Hamer Chaparral that was pink. Yes, I did, like a neck through kind of thing with a Floyd Rose. And I had a really cool Kramer that was a single pickup that was like pre-Beretta, but one of those single pickup kind of jobs with the hockey stick headstock, and it had a volume and a tone and a 3-way toggle that did series parallel split. I bought it here in LA, actually, in Sherman Oaks, not far away, when I was down here on vacation with my parents. So those come to mind. I had a Marshall that was solid state. It was that MOSFET 100 head and the aforementioned 410 cabinet somebody brought up earlier in this chat, and that was my amp then. Yeah, and a couple pedals. That was about it. Is there something, this is a good question. Sydney says, is there something one can do to tame a piezo-style pickup in an acoustic to make it a more agreeable sound? Look into using an impulse response. So you can get like a little impulse response loader, something like the radar from here. Check this out. This little Moore radar pedal. It's an IR loader, so it's a cab simulator. But in this, you could load an IR of an acoustic guitar, and then you know, easily change the sound of your piezo. So I found IRs online. This is a little more complex question than I actually probably have time to get into right now, but you can look for, basically the Fishman Aura is a system that allows you to change the sound of your acoustic guitar by applying IRs to the sound. And this would be a similar way to do it. So you could look into something like the Aura, but you could also look into this. You can find impulse responses made of acoustic guitars, and then you can kind of blend them or mix them in with the sound, you know, the raw kind of pickup tone. And it's kind of shocking how good it can sound. So when you see Alex Lifeson play on the last few Rush tours, he would do Closer to the Heart, and he's like playing it on a Les Paul, the 12-string intro part. It's because he's using an IR of an acoustic guitar blended with the piezo pickup in the bridge of that guitar, and it had that really amazing sound. So there's ways that you can do it using impulse responses to kind of take the edge off and make it sound more like a mic'd up acoustic. And I've had pretty good luck doing that. Do I prefer being a hired gun for live performances or a hired gun for recording? What's been more lucrative for me? I'm mainly a live guy. I've done sessions and stuff over the years too, quite a few, but most of my living has been made playing live. And I would say, in some ways, that's the way I feel the most comfortable. Getting in a band, learning how to, you know, I like the kind of the institutionalized living of touring and being in a band, playing in front of big crowds and all that, and that's where I feel probably the most at home. Being in the studio, I love recording, as you guys know. I do it all the time, the videos and stuff like that. Going in the studio and sort of, you know, like that whole, like the Tim Pierce, you know, going in and that dude is like a first take genius. And here's layers in the way that he builds parts, and he does it very quickly. I don't know that that's my forte. I'm very good at creativity, I feel like, in coming up with parts and stuff like that, but it takes me longer. And sometimes that gives me anxiety if I'm in the room with other really great musicians. You know what I mean? I'm just being completely honest here. It's a bit like, it's not my strongest point, is like knocking out first takes. Okay, there's a great rhythm part. Here's a great, you know, and that sort of thing. I suppose I would get better at it as I did it. And I don't really read. So I'm more of like guy in the band kind of guitar player, where it's like, put me, you know, give me some time to develop a part and stuff like that, and then I'm cool. But that on the spot kind of studio thing, that can be like the session musician, you know. This is part of why I used to work for Linda Perry quite a bit, and I think she liked players that were a little bit more like rock band guys. They didn't necessarily have to be like the greatest guitar players or shredders, or be like some musical, you know, like jacks of all trades that could do every single thing. She liked stylists that were kind of a little bit more like rock band players, because she felt like it added character to the sessions that she did. So that worked well for me. I loved working with her because it was a little more like a vibe in the room of a rock band than it was like session musicians, like, you know, that were really, you know, not. I'm certainly not dissing session musicians. When I look at Tim and what he does, I have incredible, you know, reverence for his abilities, and but I don't know that I can do that exact thing that he does to that level. So it's like, consequently, I found myself playing more live touring situations, I think, and it's just where I was the most comfortable. I'm kind of a street guitar player. I'm like a street band guy, if that makes sense. Less of a music school educated kind of, you know, jack of all trades that's really good at picking up. Oh yeah, I can do the dobro part, and I can play slide amazing, and then I'm gonna pick up a telly and sound authentic, or you know, that's not really my thing. I guess that's okay. I'm comfortable with that now. Okay, guys, I gotta go. I'm gonna go to the very end of the chat here, and we've been doing about an hour and 45 today, and I love the fact that I figured out the block thing. That's good. Sorry you guys had to put up with bullshit to the point where it was offending some people or something, but I'll try and do better on it. And Casper says, thanks for not letting stupid idiots spoil this. You bet. I mean, I'll do the best I can to keep it fun. I just want to have fun and talk about guitar, so that's it. Last couple questions. Ron says, do you use buffer pedals on your pedal board? I use the Friedman buffer bay on the side of his. So if you look at the Friedman pedal boards online, you find that he's got this product called the buffer bay, which is like a patch bay, and there's a buffer in it. So that's the first thing. And then I also use the Musicom Lab buffer that's in my Musicom Lab switcher at the end of the chain of pedals. So there's one at the front and one at the end. L. Scott Music says the Aura is crazy good. I haven't tried one recently, but and you're also saying the Zoom A3 does a similar thing and sounds good. That's cool to know. I haven't tried the Zoom. I tried the first version of the Aura, and I thought it was pretty cool. Somebody here is asking, what's the site I use to release music online? I recommend DistroKid, distrokid.com. No reservations about that. It's really good. Tell them I sent you. What's my thought on the Mastodon guitarist? Don't know that much about them, but I like what I've heard. The fellow from Mastodon was in Dave's shop and playing his amp, and they were shooting video for the new amplifier that they came out with, and I thought it sounded amazing. He's a great guitar player. He just comes up with cool parts and riffs and songs and stuff too. So, have I heard the Line 6 Power Cab? Yes, I played it 2 days ago. I went out there and shot a little video for them. I thought it sounded pretty cool. I just tried it with the Helix, so one thing I want to try it with is actually an amp and reactive load. If you guys don't know, the Line 6 Power Cab is like it's like a full range cabinet, but it looks like a guitar, kind of like a big 112, and it's still portable, and it's cool. You can tilt it back and kind of have it more like a wedge, or you can have it sitting flat like a guitar cabinet, and it really does look like a guitar cabinet. And you can run a modeler into it or something because it's full range, or you can actually host IRs in the thing. So you could load your own impulse response into the cabinet and do the IR hosting in there. And then it's also got models of speakers in it, which is like having so they want to be able to give you the sound of a greenback or creamback or whatever you want, and just switch it on the cabinet with no mic modeling or anything like that. It's just supposed to sound like a 112 with a creamback in it, or a 112 with a greenback, if that makes sense. So one of the applications that I thought, and I brought this up while I was out there, is like, this is great for modelers, guys, but you've also made a cabinet that could work exceptionally well for somebody with, say, a Plexi that wants to use a 50-watt Plexi at a gig and has a Sur reactive load or something. You can plug it right into that cabinet, dial up the greenback simulation, and there's your tone, So that's kind of cool. Of course, you can send the modeled speaker sound out to the house too. You don't need to mic it. You could mic it if you want, but you could also just, you know, do that. So it opens up a whole world of possibilities. I want to try it more, and I want to try it with some different pieces of gear. Specifically, I'd love to hear it with, like I say, reactive load and a few different amps. Because that's the other amazing thing, and they didn't even say, they sort of like their faces lit up when I said this, but like, you know, you could take a 5-watt head and run it into a load box and then use it through this and get your 5-watt head at a reasonable gig volume, at any volume. And they were like, oh yeah, we never really thought of that application. So if you've got a Fender Champ or something, or whatever, you know, one of those little Epiphone heads, you could use that, and actually it's giggable now with a cabinet like that. Pretty cool. Okay. Have I met Rafael Moriera? Yeah, I know. I've known him for many, many, many years. And it's always good to see him. He's an amazing guitar player. He actually opened for the King's X show a couple weeks ago. His band Magnetico opened up for King's X at the Whiskey, and he was, you know, he makes it look effortless. He does all this crazy shredding and sweeping stuff, and he's smiling the whole time. And, you know, he's typically Brazilian in that he's a brilliant guitar player. I find all those Brazilian musicians like Mateus and Laurie, and, you know, they just, I don't know what's in the water down there, but some incredible musicians come out of Brazil. He's a really good guitar player. Okay, you guys, I gotta run. You guys have a great rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you next time. And hey, by this time next week, the record should be in the can and be getting mastered. So any of you that got CDs and stuff, it's coming soon. So we gotta get it fulfilled by June 1st. So says Plays Music. So I'm doing it. I shall be recording today to finish it up and mixing. Have a good rest of your weekend. See you guys.